Well, Johnny, we find ourselves sitting outside Birmingham in a Airbnb, about to finish the drive back. Uh, Anybody watching us this week is going to know we got that sad. Well, it's only happened one other time, not in a regular visit to a stadium, but both
Right.
times to Alabama, where we got a report on a loss.
Yep.
You guys are going to see a fair amount of respect to their program,
History.
their history. Coach Bryant, for sure, acknowledged and legitimate respect.
Yeah. Mike, we talk a lot about football in Georgia. That's what we do. But, the first thing that was on my mind, if I could say this when I woke up this morning, just scrolling through some social media, obviously a little discouraged about the game last night. Certainly didn't go the way we wanted it to. But scrolling through and just seeing images of the beach that I grew up going to and images from North Carolina, people's homes, roads, bridges washed away. We've got friends, obviously, in Georgia who've had experienced the devastation from the wind, the flooding, all of those things. So it puts life in perspective this morning. I know you were unable to communicate with your daughter for about 24 hours or more.
Yeah,
So I know
she's
you feel very blessed this morning that you've been able to, find out that she's safe and sound. So, puts the day in the proper perspective. Matter of fact, I was looking for a coffee cup here at our B&B, and all I could find was stuff with
Brace.
kitty cats and stuff on it. And I'm not a cat fan, to be honest with y'all, but I did find one with the word grace on it. I said, well, you know what? That looks like my cup this morning. I'd normally be at church today, but we're going to drive home here in a little while, so I'm going to drink my coffee and recoup. But Mike, just real quick, just a few thoughts. You and I talked about the game a little bit, and after we almost did this last night, and I'm glad we waited because usually emotion, and because my range of emotions beginning in the game, I went from anger to disgust to bewilderment that we were finding ourselves somehow making a game of it, in the fourth quarter, and
To
then
exhilaration for
just
12
almost shock
seconds.
and awe
Yeah.
when Dylan Bell scores a 63-yard touchdown. But there was a part of me, Mike, there's this kid next to me, rips his shirt off, and he's like, about to knock me off the bench. But I just could not celebrate to his level because I was looking at that clock and I saw that 2.5 minutes. I'm like, oh man, I don't know. I've seen this. I've seen this before. I'm gonna reserve my applause here for a minute, and I think I was right to do so.
I appreciate you shifting the focus to the big picture.
Yeah.
I mean, my daughter is up in Asheville, and they're without power, and my company Stuckey's in Jefferson County, Georgia, is without power, maybe for the next week, and that's real world affecting a lot of people and
Yeah.
the future of the business. So, absolutely. People are going to talk about. I already heard it this morning and saw some headlines about the most epic game, and it don't feel that way when you're on
Nah.
the bad end of it.
Yeah.
And I would leave this last note from my perspective,
Right.
because what we're doing is trying to give people a taste of what you see on the road if you go to these conference venues.
Yes.
And hey, Alabama's got a nice campus,
They're very much so.
nice facilities, really nice. But if you're going to get out and go on the road with DawgTracks or the Dog Nation, and you think you're going to come into Alabama and have a whole bunch of friendly folks, we saw
No.
some friendly folks, but
Yeah.
if you got thin skin,
It ain't your place.
don't come here. Well, Johnny, we're about to check off another important stadium on our
Big one.
tour of the Southeastern Conference. We find ourselves today in Tuscaloosa, about to face the infamous or famous University of Alabama.
Yep. Very, very narrow shot behind us. We can see the stadium just a little bit behind us, Mike. We're about to make the walk down there, the Walk of Champions down Paul W. Bryant Drive over here.
Hopefully we'll get some good footage for you.
Man. Hey, listen, we're of course big college football fans, so rivalries aside, looking forward to catching the
Respect.
the history down here while
Yeah.
we're here for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You got a little history of that?
Yeah,
matchup?
just quick, Mike, and I'm going to give it back to you fast today. But, you know, we were talking about this on the ride up here. You know, who actually has a fantastic record against the Tide? I mean,
Not us.
I mean, if you played them a lot, you've probably lost to them a lot. You know, the history of this series, Georgia's won 26 times. We've lost 43 games to the Tide. We've tied 4 times. I think an interesting thing, Mike, and we're going to get back to this in a minute, show some old highlights. But I had not remembered this, but we have only won 2 games in the history of the series here in Tuscaloosa. And the first one, Mike, didn't come until the 21st century. In 2002, the Dogs came over here and won for the first time with our friend Tyson Browning.
Couldn't be more excited to have Tyson Browning with us. Tyson's Oconee County High School graduate and a Georgia Bulldog. We're big fan of his. So Tyson, you got to UGA in 2002, I believe.
Yes, sir.
In 2002 was the first time Georgia ever came over here and won a game in Tuscaloosa. You'll remember a lot of the names. There were a lot of stars in that game.
I was going to ask you too about that 2002 season. I mean, it's a great season. Can't take it away. I mean, 13-1. Of course, the one was, you know, lost to Florida, which was often the trap for, to derail a lot of Georgia dreams.
Right.
But, you know, overall that season, what's your thought? I mean, you wind up with a big win, obviously, in the Sugar Bowl over Florida State.
Right. You know, I had come from Oconee, man, where I had got used to winning. You know what I mean? So I knew that feeling of being, like, totally so confident in who we were that we didn't think we could lose. And that was the feeling we had that year. Like, it wasn't a game that we went into except for Florida. That's why we lost, because that was the only time doubt really ever sunk in that, like, can we really get this done down here? But every game was like the same feeling I had in high school. Like, I didn't think we could be beat. You know, we had such a great core. We had great quarterback play from Greeny to Sharp. We had Moose. We had Terrence Edwards, the leading wide receiver in SEC history.
Yep.
Big Ben, one of the best tight ends in the SEC.
Tons of talent.
Yeah, you know, Boss and Tony and David. Like, you know, it was abundance of talent. So I never felt we could lose that year.
In 2002, you know, it was kind of frustrating. I went back and watched some highlights of that this week, and Georgia got out to an early lead and really looked like they were going to dominate that game, and you know, kind of got in a lull late in the game. David Green threw an interception to Bama. Bama got ahead and wound up that Georgia, inside, I think, like 5 seconds, Billy Bennett, Georgia drove down, kicked a field goal, and then Thomas Davis sealed that first ever win with an interception for the Dogs. Our friend Tyson Browning had, I believe, about a half dozen carries in that game as a true freshman. Didn't make a big splash in that game, but the fact that he was on a field in Tuscaloosa as a freshman, it says a lot about Tyson.
I believe in 2002, you actually got to play in that game. What's your recollections of that as a freshman?
Well, I remember at the time it being like the biggest game of the year, because all the hype was that it was the man enough game. Sam Georgia wasn't man enough to come down there and play in the trenches against those guys. But the most memorable part of this thing that nobody knows. So I go into the game. I'm a true freshman. I'm probably 140 pounds. I don't expect to play much. I'm like third on the depth chart. We go in the game. It's hot in Tuscaloosa this day. It may have been 200 degrees. And in the first quarter, Musa Smith, who was the starter, Musa starts cramping up. He's dehydrating. So then I'm like, okay, now I go from 3 to number 2. And I'm like, okay, still, I'm not going to get in the game. You know, that's my wish, right? Then Tony Milton, who is the 2-back, he goes in the game. Tony gets hit so hard that I could feel it on the sideline. And then I look, and the trainers are going to get Tony out of the game. Like his eye socket has been knocked loose or something. Now I'm like, Moose is out. Tony's been knocked unconscious. And now I go from 3 to number 1. And I'm a true freshman. I really don't know the game plan of the week because I really was so far on the depth chart, I didn't expect to play. So Coach Rick comes to me, he's like, do you know how to run to the flats? And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. And I remember we ran a play series, it was called Shallow Cross Stampede. all I did was like run to the flats like 50 times the rest of the half. And I remember going into halftime praying like, Musa, please get back out there because there's no way we're going to win without you. And Musa came back, and, you know, Mike Johnson had that most memorable catch to end that game. And, you know, I remember at that moment, like, thinking it doesn't, like, this is what dreams are. Like, you know, I dreamed of being a Georgia Bulldog. I'm here in this moment. It was like the most amazing thing ever.
But really, Mike, I want to give it back to you because you stumbled on something that I want to let you break. I bet a lot of people have never heard this story about the historic Georgia coach Wallace Butts and an interesting court case involving him. So,
I certainly didn't know about it, Johnny. Some of you, at least your parents, might remember the Saturday Evening Post. It was a famous long-running magazine, but they ran an article in '63 after Georgia had lost badly to Alabama the year before. And what they said in that article is that Wallace Butts and Paul Bear Bryant had got together and conspired to throw that game to Alabama. And Wallace Butts did resign after that. He was athletic director at the time. He was no longer the coach.
Right.
He resigned, but then proceeded to sue the Saturday Evening Post. It went all the way to the United States Supreme Court, Johnny, and they settled, the magazine settled for an astronomical sum at that time of $3 million.
Yeah.
And rumor has it that that's why you no longer see the Saturday Evening Post any longer.
Put him out of business.
Wallace Butts bankrupted him for telling a conspiracy on him.
On the Bear and on Wallace.
I was blessed, you know, because what people don't remember is Kirby was my running back coach my senior year. So, you know, he coached for us twice. I think like my sophomore year, he was there as like a defensive assistant or something. But then my senior year, he was my running back coach. So the guy that people see now, he was that guy then. Mm-hmm. You know, yes, of course, I'm pretty sure he picked up some stuff from Nick and Mark and guys he worked around. But as far as like his no-nonsense, direct mentality, that was Kirby then, you know. So I'm blessed, you know, I still here. I work on campus, so, you know, I'm in and out the locker room a lot, you know, just to see, you know, it's amazing to see, you know, the leader he's grown into being.
I've got one more story. It's a personal story that our father told us. Now, many of you may not know.
Come on in here, Tom.
Our father was amongst
No, you
many
get in the middle.
things.
They need to see you get on this camera here.
He was a Marine Corps pilot, and he started like many did right after December 7th. He went in, strolled in, and I'm volunteering for the service of my country. They said, "Oh, you've already got a college degree. You'll be an officer. How's your eyes? You ever think of being a pilot? Okay, you can be a pilot." And here's the three groups that fly planes: Army Air Corps, Navy, and Marine Corps. Oh, I like that uniform. Okay, you'll be a Marine. And that led him ultimately on a path before Tom and I were living there as young people, but it led him on a path to Athens, Georgia, where the Navy Supply Corps School was doing ground training for future pilots. And it just so happened, Tom, that they had a
football coach
by the name of Paul Bear Bryant, who was running the fitness program for them in early 1940s. And of course, true to form, he wanted to put these boys through fitness training with the football team. And our father had a story about working for Paul Bear Bryant. What did he say?
So our father was he was not a big man. He was tall, but he was thin. So he was naturally like a wide receiver. And so they had sent him out to run this play, and he ran the route, and the ball came right to him and hit him right in the numbers, and he dropped the ball. He got hit. Right here. He got hit right as the ball came in, and he dropped the ball. And so he ran to the sideline, and Coach Bryant.
Then, hey, let me interrupt 1 second. We run a PG show, but you use the language that Paul Bear Bryant used on your dad.
And so he grabbed our father by the scruff, and he said, "You go out there and run that same play again, you gold-bricking son of a bitch." And he sent him out and ran the same play again with the direction everybody knew was going to see the same play again. And so, of course, what would happen, he goes out, runs the same play, and gets clobbered again. But this time, I think he held onto the ball.
He did hold the ball, he said, yeah.
But he lost his clock. He got his clock clean.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that was his he always had that memory of Coach Bryant.
Small world. Small
Yes.
world.
After you graduated from Oconee, you actually, on your journey, you stopped off at Fort Union Military Academy. Was that just for a year?
Yes, sir.
Tell folks about what it's like to go to a small school like that.
Well, forget the fact that it's a small school. The most important part of that sentence was military academy. Okay? Because that was a total like culture shock to me. They took my civvies and put me in a uniform, and I was away from all the girls, my mom, everybody immediately. You know, it was a huge, transition trying to do that, but it was actually the best thing that could have happened to me because it gave me a year to focus on nothing but school, football, my relationship with God, my relationship with myself, and they gave me structure.
Anyway, so glad to have you back down here,
Yeah,
brother.
Glad to be able
Thanks
to.
for the story, and as always for your logistical help when you're on the trips with us, man.
Yeah.
We appreciate
No,
you.
this is good. I gotta say, I gotta compliment Alabama. Very easy to kind of get in
Yeah,
here.
we had a nice ride in today.
And for people coming to, and it's certainly, I think, I can't remember the name of where we're parked, but it was, parked in the stadium or parked in the parking garage here.
No problems.
No problems, good restrooms. So it's,
Yeah.
The next season, 2003, Georgia goes to Death Valley in Baton Rouge, and we'll pick this up.
Blocked by
This is-
Damien. Bam.
A lot of green grass, Tyson. So you're taking a 93-yard screen pass to the house there. Tell us about that play. I mean, that's got to be exciting when it opens up like that.
Oh man, like I said, I hadn't seen a hole that big since '99. So as soon as the hole opened, I can remember thinking I gotta go score, and then I can remember seeing Damian Gary because I had one more guy to beat, and I seen Damian come, and after that it was a foot chase, and I probably never ran as hard as I ran in that moment ever again to this day. But the most memorable part of that is that was so late in the game. And I don't know if you guys know Coach Joe Tereshinski.
Yeah.
Coaches for staff. I love Coach Joe. Coach Joe T had told me before the game started, I was actually coming back off a suspension for something we had all gotten in trouble for. And Coach T had told me before the game, he said, you're going to have a huge play today. And I'm like, Coach, I doubt I'm even going to play. This is my first game back. He was like, you're going to have a huge play. And he just kept saying it to me the whole game. And even right before that drive, we're down. I'm thinking I'm not getting a big play. He says, you're going to get a big play. I run out on the field. I remember the play. Greeny said we're running Texas crack, which is my favorite play. And it split open like the Red Sea.
What do you think was behind that, Tyson? Do you think maybe he felt the spirit, or do you think he'd been looking at that film and they knew they were weak?
No, that was the thing. It had to be like just a feeling. Because Coach T he wasn't a film guy. He was like our strength and conditioning guy. So he wasn't in the locker room watching film daily. It was just a feeling. And he was so he said it, so I believed it, because he just, every time he walked past me on the sideline, he would say, stay ready, stay ready. Stay ready, Tyson. You're going to have a big play. And then it happens.
And we stopped by because I'm sure we'll throw a little footage. We got
meant to
some
bring
fantastic
I was going to eat a rib
barbecue.
on camera, but I forgot. But yeah, we hit the original Dreamland barbecue on the way in. Bought more ribs than we might be able to eat, but I don't know. We might do it, Tommy.
yeah, I
maybe.
think we
gonna-
did more. I think we did more damage.
So yeah, Dreamland is definitely a place to visit if you make it to Tuscaloosa.
We'll show you. Maybe some dog fans might have a stereotypical view of what Alabama looks like. We'll show you some of that on the way to Dreamland's barbecue.
It's not on the main track. Is that
It's
fair
not.
to say, Mike?
And they had a handy outdoor bathroom we saw.
Yeah. All right. And then in 07, you'll remember, of course, Matt Stafford, Thomas Brown, Brandon Coutu, the field goal kicker, Noshawn Marino. You remember all of his, leaps and dives and games. That game was another one. Georgia got to a lead, surrendered the lead. Game goes into OT here. Bama loses the coin toss, has to take the ball first. They wind up kicking a field goal. Georgia played some defense, and Georgia gets the ball next. First play, Matthew
Lights
Stafford just airs one out into the corner of the end zone. Mikey Henderson runs over it, runs out of the end zone and into the locker room, and the Dogs walked that one off. So, you know, we've been back since then and not had the success. But
When you look back on those days as a soldier, as a gladiator for the entertainment of the Bulldog Nation, what comes into your mind first when you look back?
Just the locker room. Like I told you earlier, you know, the relationships that I've built through playing the game of football far surpass anything else I've done. You know what I mean? Like, I can pick up my phone and I call David Pollard, or I pick up my phone and I call Odell Thurman, or Tim Jennings, or Thomas Davis, or Charles, any of these legendary people that others may think are these legendary people who are really just my brothers, that I have those relationships with. And it's just amazing. Like, I was out playing in Pollock's celebrity golf tournament a few weeks ago. It was me and Reggie Brown, and you know, all like those relationships outlast any game that we won, any ring that I have. You know, I love to brag. I got 2 SEC championship rings, you know, but that I don't walk around with my rings on. You know, and to be honest with you, the farther I remove myself from sports, you know, a lot of athletes, we try to establish who we are outside of the game, you know, so I don't really walk around bragging about me being Tyson Browning. You know, most of the time, I really would rather be like under the radar wherever I'm at because, you know, we've been in that spotlight. But to have the relationships that have nothing to do with football anymore, you can't beat that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, put it on there. We're going to win by 10, and it's going to be some sad singing and some slow walking that night. Hey, you can best believe
don't believe that.
Don't believe that. Hey, on the other side.
Let's look on the other side.
Hey,
what you got on the back of yours? Is that a G?
You know what's all right. I ain't no G around here.
Yeah. You ain't no G? I believe that. Woo!
Well said. Tyson, you're a great representative of Oconee County, the football program, damn good dog, and our good Lord. You represent him well too.
I appreciate it. That's the goal. That
Thank
is
you,
the
man.
main goal.
God
Yes,
bless you,
sir.
Tyson.
Thanks
so much
brother.
for
So
joining
good
us.
to
Thank
talk
y'all
to
for
you.
having me, man.
Yep.
For real, for real.
it's always a great day to be a dog, regardless. And Mike, the dog in me, greets the dog in you.
And I recognize
And
you.
greets the dog in all of you. We're going to come back, and it's going to be better. Is this the way to wrap it up, Mike?
Yeah.
Go
Go
Dogs.
Dogs.